Autographed hardcover special edition copy of Land of Childhood's Fears will be sent to you for a $100 donation, or you can buy the book directly from the publisher. See links in the description. The natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him, neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. 1 Corinthians 2:14. And as for those things herein alleged, I have good reason and multiple reliable sources which lead me to believe they are true. Hello, this is Dave from Net4 Truth USA. It is April 14th, 2018. In a world of bullshit, who do you believe? That's the question. There is an axiom in the law in Latin, and that axiom says, falsus in uno, falsus in omnibus, meaning if one thing is false, the whole thing is bullshit. And that's the axiom that I apply whenever I see something on the mainstream media news which I disdain to watch. And I haven't had a cable box in this house for 3 years. I don't want to pay to be brainwashed. We have seen enough bullshit exposed. Bullshit from the mainstream media exposed that enough people who are awake have just simply stopped watching. CNN is about to go bankrupt. The New York Times, once respected, is about to go bankrupt. And we see that all the stories that they have reported over the years, for decades, have all been bullshit. Operation Mockingbird. You see, the people who want to take over the government tried in 1933. This goes back generations. If you haven't read the book, read The Plot to Seize the White House by Jules Archer. If it wasn't for General Smedley Butler exposing this government corruption back in 1933, you and I would be doing the Hitler salute and singing Edelweiss right now. But the plot that failed in 1933 succeeded 29 years later with the assassination of John F. Kennedy. On that day, America ceased to become America. On that day, your vote might as well have been going into your bathroom and flushing your toilet. Because it's all been smoke and mirrors and bullshit ever since. And if you don't believe it, it doesn't change the facts. The fact is that the majority of the presidents since then, since the JFK assassination, have all been members of one secret organization at Yale University, namely Skull and Bones. And these are the sick motherfuckers that go out and do satanic shit. Now, I go back a ways, so I can speak from experience. And when Bill Clinton was president, in the middle of all that, I remember vividly a speech that he gave that he admitted that his wife sat and talked to Eleanor Roosevelt. When I heard that shit come out of his mouth, I knew that some demonic shit was afoot. You talk to dead people, and you're sitting next to the president, and there's a lot of people that say that he was the co-president and the Hildebeest was really the president calling the shots. And I believe it. I believe it. You start talking to dead people, you don't belong in government. Period. End of discussion. Because there's something wrong with you. Whether you believe this is biblical or not, it doesn't matter. You're talking to dead people. You're talking to dead motherfuckers, and you are out of your fucking mind. You got that? You got Kuru disease. That's what her problem is now. She's got Kuru disease. She's a cannibal. She's drinking children's blood. And she's got the fucking disease that comes with that. It's called Kuru disease. And you can encephalitis, fucking whatever the fuck it is, dementia, bullshit. It's Kuru disease. It's brain-eating viruses that comes from eating human beings. Period. And we see the evidence of it. Don't we see the evidence of it? You know, the law has an axiom. And I go by that axiom. And it says this. It's from a case, People versus Klieg. And it states that the danger with the use of circumstantial evidence is that of logical gaps, subjective, inferential links of low probability or insufficient degree. Let me say that again. The danger with the use of circumstantial evidence is that of logical gaps, subjective, inferential links of low probability or insufficient degree. Okay, let's take this one step at a time, okay? Let's put what we know to the test of that axiom. All right, let's take the first part. The danger with the use of circumstantial evidence. Is this thing that we have, this collection of facts that we have, circumstantial evidence, or is it empirical evidence? The difference being circumstantial evidence is it could happen to anybody, or empirical evidence means that it can only happen in this situation. It's a fact. It's a demonstrable, verifiable, visual, audible fact. The empirical evidence is their own emails. 650,000 emails that we know of, from the Hildebeest to all her pals, on her private server, which was not authorized, unsecured, and had top secret special access program information on it, which is in itself an act of treason. Is that circumstantial evidence? The answer, no. It is empirical, factual, verifiable, visual, audible evidence. So, test number one is the danger with the use of circumstantial evidence. It's not circumstantial evidence. So, throw that part of the axiom out. Logical gaps. Is it logical that all these facts fit together and weave the tapestry of what we know to be true? And a famous lawyer once said, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove in court. Well, who do you have to prove it to in court? A jury of 12 rational, hopefully rational, sane people. And when you've got over 80 dead bodies around you, raises the question, is this logical? How do you prove it or not prove it? Is it circumstantial? Yes, on its face, it's circumstantial. But anybody else who had 80 dead motherfuckers around them would raise red flags with their local police department, if not the federal government and the FBI. This is a case for CSI, crime scene investigators, and Criminal Minds on Ion TV. This is the perfect case for Criminal Minds. Could be a series of episodes on this shit. So logical gaps. Is it logical that I would say conservatively 3 dozen, 4 dozen people around one person dying of unnatural causes in accidents and committing suicide. Is that logical? The answer is no. So that second part of that axiom gets thrown out. Now, subjective inferential links. Subjective is all in the mind of whoever is examining the facts. Is it subjective or not that a person around you is dead? No, it's a fact. The subjective part of that is it related to you? How many other people on this planet have 80 dead motherfuckers laying around their circle of friends, or circle of acquaintances, or circle of people who had some information that you didn't want to get out? I don't think it's inferential. And low probability, I would venture to say that any insurance company who's doing actuarial tables of probabilities of how you're going to get into an accident, or this and that, the other, to figure out what they're going to charge you on your insurance policy. And by the way, that's why they charge you more when you have an accident, because they know that now the probability went up. Now, I've been driving since 1969. I never had an accident, never had a ticket. So I get good rates, which is subjective. So if I was an insurance company and I was selling life insurance, the first question I would ask a potential client would be, do you know Hillary Clinton? Or do you have anything to do with investigating the crimes of the Hildebeest? And if the answer is yes, then I would pass on selling you an insurance policy, because sooner or later you might end up with 2 bullets in the back of your head and the coroner ruling it a suicide. Okay. Inferential links. Let's try that one. There are people who are inferring, who are alleging, who are speculating and proposing and postulating that Hillary Clinton is falling down like she's drunk, or like she's got some kind of, imbalance, because she has subdural hematoma or some shit, because of an accident that she had years ago, falling down. And there are other people who are doing the same speculation, postulation, that she has a brain disease that is brought about by cannibalism, or the new word that is being coined on the internet to describe what the hell it is exactly that these people are into, is being a pedivore. A carnivore that eats people. And if you research the symptoms of Kuru disease, she's got it. I'm not a doctor. I don't know. I can't say for a fact. But inferential crosses the line just a little bit. Because all the allegations from people who don't know each other and haven't conspired with each other, I mean, this is the internet. This is supposedly free speech. And we've seen that that's bullshit too, with the Mark Zuckerberg getting up there and, fortunately for him, not under oath, lying to Congress about what exactly his company is doing. These people making these allegations and making allegations, and then all of a sudden, the pieces fit together. So is it inferential? Yeah, it is. But the inferences make sense where other things don't. The collection of inferences, their nexus point is that Hillary Clinton eats babies and she's got Kuru disease. You tell me. I don't know. Okay. Low probability. Low probability, I would venture to say that the probability of at least 80 people dying of unnatural causes, all having the same person in their circle of acquaintances or in their circle of people who they have evidence against, that probability of all those people dying young and dying of unnatural causes and committing suicide, starting with Vincent Foster way back in the day, are practically non-existent. There is a connection. And just because she's 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 layers removed from the actual commission of these suspected, inferred, postulated murders, does not change the fact that the nexus point is the Hildebeest. All of these things come together at one point. The Kevlar Hildebeest. That's where they come together. So, low probability, out the window. Insufficient degree. Treason is a crime that is punishable by a firing squad. This person knows, and the whole cabal knows, that if this crap that they're doing was to become public knowledge, there would not be any need for trials, indictments, none of that. If this tape that is alleged, and I know that it exists, but it is alleged to exist, ever makes the public airwaves, and the demented, demoralized, brainwashed, MK Ultra victim mentality of this country was to watch that shit on mainstream media, forced to cover it because they would be scooped by me, by us. If that thing ever caught the eye of the American people, there would not be a need for a trial. There would be massacre in Washington, D.C. There would be a massacre. There, armed citizens who never thought of picking up a weapon would go down to Washington, D.C. and say, give me this bitch right here. And ain't no fucking thing that the Secret Service, the military, or God himself would ever be able to do anything about. And I'm telling you out of my mouth what you're thinking. And that's why, precisely why, New York Police Department has not released that tape. Because they know the consequences thereof. But it has already leaked onto the deep web, onto the dark web. Already. There are allegations, there are descriptions of what is contained in this tape that actually it makes you want to fucking puke is what it does. And all of these stories cannot possibly be made up by different people who don't know each other, have never talked to each other, don't even subscribe to people's, videos or channels or anything, that come up with this stuff independently in and of themselves by their own research. So you tell me. You tell me. When will you rest in the sufficiency of the evidence? And that is precisely the argument that I would make as a prosecutor in a courtroom in front of a jury to convict these people of what it is exactly that they're doing that is in your face. And it's so unbelievable that people with normal brains cannot process this. It doesn't compute. But that's precisely the reason why they've gotten away with it. And the weaponized phrase conspiracy theory has been used to villainize all of the people who have for years been speaking the truth and examining the evidence and making the only sane and rational conclusion that can come from all of these facts is what I'm telling you and what everybody on the conservative alternate media are telling you. And if you refuse to believe it, there are more victims that are going to suffer the same fate that we are alleging. And it definitely warrants an investigation. And it definitely warrants an investigation by people who are not witch hunters. This PP dossier had never had any evidence behind it whatsoever in a year and a half of them spending hundreds of millions of dollars in the taxpayers' money to go after it, because they have to have something. There is a string that they're hanging on to. There's a little thread that they're hanging on to. It's the little hair that's holding up the sword of Damocles over their head. And they know that this shit, if it ever was exposed, they would not be able to walk the streets. There wouldn't be a wall thick enough. There wouldn't be a hole deep enough where they could go and hide from the wrath of the American patriot. Period. End of discussion. And there's another thing that I want to tell you about too. And I'm going to put that up on the screen in a minute. But this comes from the writings of L. Ron Hubbard. And you're going to be amazed. Stand by. A lie is a second postulate designed to mask a primary postulate, statement, or condition which is permitted to remain. This is an axiom of Scientology. Now, if I didn't tell you where that previous quote came from, all of you who are now saying, oh, Scientology, let me turn this video off, would have said to yourself, you know what? That makes perfect sense. A lie is a second postulate designed to mask a primary postulate, statement, or condition which is permitted to remain. This is precisely what the Hildebeest is doing with the publication of her book, What Happened? I'll tell you what happened. You were not a viable candidate. The people saw through your lies, and they didn't want you in the White House. And you thought you had it locked with all the corruption and all the dead people you signed up to vote and all the voters that you bust in and they're voting in 5 and 6 places with Soros money paying them. You thought you had it locked. But fortunately, your corruption could not overwhelm the amount of people that came out and voted for Donald John Trump, who, by the way, has the same initials as I do. Anyway, you could not overwhelm the overwhelming majority of people who voted for Donald Trump. And you didn't have Plan B. You instituted Plan B after the fact by realizing that this medium right here, social media, got you defeated in the 2016 election. We did it. Me and you. And we're going to defeat you in the November elections coming up. And we're going to elect Donald Trump again for a second term. I like that shit. If you survive, you think you're going to run for president again. First of all, if I was a betting man, if I was to go to Vegas and they were laying odds, I would lay odds that the Hildebeest would croak way before she was prosecuted for her numerous crimes over these past 4 decades, at least. And you'll not have the chance to contaminate the Oval Office again. It's not going to happen. And the Democrats don't have a snowball's chance in hell of even touching the 2020 elections. Not a chance. So give that pipe dream up while you still can. Because the only thing that you're going to be running for is president of your local cell block when they put you down in Leavenworth awaiting your sentence for treason. And barring that, there's a more fitting fate waiting for traitors in this country. And it's just waiting to happen. The weather's getting nice. It's like 85 degrees out. Need I say more? I don't think I need to say anymore. I don't need to say anymore. The second you have exceeded second, tertiary, quaternary, quintillion postulates about why you lost. Why you lost is you are a satanic, child-raping, child-eating bitch that should have been prosecuted for crimes long, long, long ago. And the only reason that you haven't is because you have other people who would prosecute you in your pocket by virtue of the fact that they are compromised by doing the same satanic shit you did. How you like that shit, huh? Is it starting to fit together now? Little and little, as Plutarch once said, they took over the government. They couldn't do it by a takeover, by a forceful takeover, because they knew patriots were standing by, armed and ready to take them out. So they had to pull this psychological operation, and they conspired with the 6 corporations that run all of the mainstream media except for Fox News, which is a relative newcomer. That's why they are not in the boat with CNN. And they are complicit in treason. And just like the getaway car driver for a guy who robs a bank and ends up killing a few people in the process, the guy who's driving the car, although he had no intention of killing anybody, is just as guilty of felony murder as the guy who got out of the car and robbed the bank. So hopefully justice will finally wake up and be served. But it's not going to wake up and be served unless we get rid of all the rhinos and the people who are pretending to support Trump, and they're like the Knight of the Long Knives, waiting to stab him in the back. And I'll tell you this, however Donald J. Trump leaves office is going to be up to Donald Trump, not to you. He will win a second term in a bigger landslide than he did the first time. And if the deep state attempts, by whatever means, to get Donald Trump out of office, I think you're going to have a shit ton of pissed off patriots descending on Washington, D.C. and demanding the heads of the deep state. Now let me go into something else that is a trigger for logical thinking. This also comes from the writings of L. Ron Hubbard. And please do not take this as I'm a Scientologist. I don't. I just read everything that I could that he wrote on this subject, because I've seen simple Dianetics cure somebody of post-traumatic stress that he's been going under psychotherapy for 20 years in 2 sessions with a Dianetics auditor that just started, completely cured this man of these nightmares that he was having due to his service in Vietnam. And I write about that in my book. But check this out. The workability of a postulate is established by the degree to which it explains existing phenomena already known, by the degree that it predicts new phenomena which when looked for will be found to exist, and by the degree that it does not require that phenomena which do not exist in fact be called into existence for its explanation. Scientology Logic number 19. So needless to say, you can apply that previous logic to anything, especially to 9/11. Especially to 9/11, because if it fails those tests, it's bullshit. And whatever the mainstream media is telling you is a lie. They can't even predict the weather. And you're going to trust them with conveying to you information that you need to make intelligent decisions about who is running the government. Now, we have not made a decision about who is running the government until we elected Donald Trump. And just last night, we saw the effect of the power of the mainstream media and the power of the deep state to control what's going on in this world. Somehow they convinced Donald Trump to strike Syria on an obviously bullshit story, just like they did last year. And if it comes to a choice between Revolution 2.0 and World War III, I'd take the former rather than the latter any day. It's coming to the point where we have to make a decision whether we are going to stand by and watch this shit happen and watch another 2, 3, 100 million people perish for the globalist bullshit agenda, or are we going to stand up and take our country and the world back? That's the decision patriots have to make. And as I said before, we are a hair's breadth away from Revolution 2.0. And if you haven't got the fucking balls, you're going to be just like the Jews during Hitler's Germany, marching to your deaths in the shower. Have the balls and stand up. Peace. Thank you for watching. Autographed hardcover special edition copy of Land of Childhood's Fears will be sent to you for a $100 donation. You can get the book from Amazon or buy it directly from the publisher at LuLu.com. Links are in the description section. Should I be found with 2 bullet holes in the back of my head, know all men by these presents, I was Arkancided.